I hated the way I looked. I hated the way I was feeling, and I felt like I was kind of drowning, and I didn't know how to get out of it. Like, I couldn't stop it. I couldn't stop the voice in my head saying, like, every time I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror, like, oh, just horrible, you know. But then torturing yourself with those words, I mean, it destroys you inside, you know. How do you get out of that?
Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Stacey.
And this is the Body Smart Podcast.
We are women's weight loss experts, and we are on a mission to empower you to feel permanently in control of your weight and your health. And we have got one of our beautiful Body Smart graduates with us today, Tracie, who has been on a journey to do just that. And it has been quite a journey. So we're really honoured that you could join us today to share it, because I know it's not your comfort zone to be to be talking about everything, but I think it's going to be a really great episode for other people to listen and think, oh God, yeah, that was me, or that is me. So Tracie has lost around 10 kilos, 23 pounds with us, but I think we can all agree it's probably more the inner work and the mindset changes and the lifestyle changes that have made the difference. Yeah. So I'd love it if you could just share a bit about where you were when you first found this lovely guy online.
So, firstly, thank you for having me. So I think just coming out of lockdown, and I was not in a very good place in my mind, or happy with how I looked, how I felt, and it all started to come to a head. And I'd seen Body Smart on Instagram, been following for a while. And then everything just came to a head, and I just knew that something had to change, and I couldn't continue feeling how I was feeling. I was a bit worried about where that was going to lead. So I knew that I had to make a change. So I decided to jump in and join Body Smart.
And you said when we were chatting earlier that you didn't really tell anyone else in your life, like just how bad you were feeling.
No, I think at the time we were just coming out of lockdown, and I had all the family back at home. So there were 7 of us in there, of us, seven people, 4 dogs and a house rabbit. So it's quite full
Busy,
on. It was very, very full on. And
how was that for you? Did you thrive in that situation? Did you enjoy it, or was it?
Actually, for the first part of it, I think it was a very novel experience, wasn't it? And having everyone come back home was a lot of fun, although a lot of hard work. And a few different things sort of happened with that. I mean, that's a lot of pressure, and it's a lot of looking after. I felt like I was running a B&B.
Right.
Yeah, it was a lot of hard work, and I'm quite a bit OCD about the cleaning and all that jazz, so everything had to be still at a standard and all that jazz. So that was a bit of extra pressure. But yeah, definitely, I think being a parent and running the house and everything, you're kind of seen as the rock of the family, I guess. And yeah, sort of I had a bit of a habit of hiding the emotions of how I really felt, and, not really letting on to anybody else, because you kind of want to be there for everyone else. Yeah. Everyone calls on you. So yeah, I didn't really let on to anybody how I was really feeling. And that kind of got me in not a very nice place, really.
How were you really feeling?
I really hated myself. I was not comfortable with how I looked, how I felt. The internal monologue was just awful. It was like torture. It really, really was. And I didn't feel like I had control of my own thoughts, how I felt. And it's kind of soul destroying to constantly feel like that every single day. And not feeling like there's a way out. Especially when no one knows it's going on.
Yeah. So
that's kind of tough to deal with. But there's only so much that you can take of feeling like that, and it all came to a head. And I seriously thought that if I didn't do something about it, then that I was kind of worried where I might end up.
Yeah. And so what was your routine of kind of looking after you versus looking after everyone else like back then?
Wasn't really much of looking after me, because everything, it was, I was consumed by making sure that everyone else was okay, and doing everything for everyone else. I didn't really have time for kind of, should I do something for me or whatever? Yeah. It wasn't really like that, It was kind of full on. We had some of the kids were working from home, like nobody was leaving. So dinner time started at about 3:30 in the afternoon, like all the prepping and everything else.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like as I say, it was a bit like running a B&B, constantly cleaning. We had 3 dogs in the kitchen, 1 in the hallway, a rabbit in the dining room, like people working in various rooms in the house. It was, you know.
It was, lockdown was very full on, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Especially then everyone working at home as well, and
Yeah.
people like being in the house all day. Yeah, the novelty in the beginning was there, but it did soon wear off.
Oh yeah, it did soon wear off.
Yeah.
So how were you feeling prior to maybe lockdown, to like when you say you got to that place where you're having maybe more intrusive
Prior
thoughts?
to lockdown, I guess, I don't know, I've always been, you know, just sort of bobbing along, quite happy, doing what I do kind of thing. I don't really know if I could say where there was a turning point. I just think that being in lockdown and being at home, you kind of, I don't know, everything that you used to do kind of went out of the window because you couldn't go out and stuff. So, yeah, I think it was, I don't know, I didn't even really notice it happening when it was happening, or I couldn't say to you when it started, I guess. But yeah, it was definitely.
I think that's relatable though, because sometimes you know, some people can look back over like 5 years and be like, oh, how have I gained all this weight, or how have I become this person? And it wasn't just like one giant thing happened. It was a small little thing got dropped that week, and then next month another little small thing changed, and you gained a little bit of weight. But you don't really notice if you gain a pound or 2 or a kilo or 2 here or there over a month.
Yeah.
But over a couple of months or even a couple of years, you look back and be like, who is this? How did I become this person over a couple of years?
Exactly. And I think, like a lot of people in lockdown, there was a lot of excess alcohol that went on.
Yeah.
You know, which is not what you'd usually do, you know. And then, you know, you're obviously eating more.
Yeah.
Because you were at home more in the boredom of, you know, not being able to do, you know, go out shopping or do all those other different things. You were in that same environment. You know, my husband and I got so sick and tired of seeing the same 4 walls, we even thought about moving. We started looking at houses when we came out of lockdown, but, you know, like a lot of other people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just kind of crept on until I just didn't really recognise the person I saw in the mirror anymore.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting as well, like you said, even before lockdown, you were so focused on bringing up your kids and, like, just basically running the house that you weren't even a prominent feature in that even before.
No, absolutely not. Yeah,
and I think
you're right.
that's so common.
Yeah. I think that, you know, I think we were saying earlier on, you know, and I was very lucky that I could stay at home and be with my kids all the time, and that was my full-time job. And when people used to ask me, what do you do? Oh, I'm just a mum, you know.
Wild. Yeah.
I know, just a mum, right? And even now, like the sound of that, it's like, no. But, you know, you kind of, that's just what you do. And you know, that was my life, taking care of the kids and everything. So that was what I lived for. And then, but obviously as they grow up and then they need you less. And if you haven't sort of done anything else outside of that, then you kind of get a bit lost.
Yeah.
You know, then you kind of have to try and find, okay, well, what is it you do then?
You lose a bit of like your own identity.
You do, because they are your identity for a massive part of your life.
Yeah.
And so when you joined, you had Coach Anna,
I did.
who you worked with.
Yes.
And was that one of your main goals, to just like find that purpose and routine?
Yeah, absolutely, because I found out that I don't do very well without a purpose. And I needed some kind of routine, a reason to get up in the morning, because, you know, as the kids got older, and then after lockdown they kind of moved out and you know, did their own thing, and then I was like, okay, well, what is it I do? I wasn't getting out of bed till late. I didn't have I need to get up for this. I need to get up to make sure I do that. So having a structure to my day, I found that was definitely something that I needed, and really, really helped me a lot. Like, you know, initially. The reason to get out of bed.
Did you know that was what you needed help with, or did you think, I just need to get like fit and healthy again?
All I knew at that point was that I hated myself so much, and I didn't know how to stop what was going around in my head. And I was in such a horrible place that I just wanted to make it stop. And I knew that I didn't like myself, so I knew that I had to do something.
What because like hate's a strong word.
It is.
So yeah, it is. Yeah, but like what specifically? Like
I hated the way I looked. I hated the way I was feeling, and I felt like I was kind of drowning, and I didn't know how to get out of it. Like I couldn't stop it. I couldn't stop the voice in my head saying, like every time I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror, like, oh, just horrible, you know. But then torturing yourself with those words, I mean, it destroys you inside, you know. How do you get out of that?
Yeah.
And I was kind of going, I need someone to help me. I need someone to, you know, guide me in a direction that's going to help me stop feeling like this and to feel better about myself.
And so what was that first call like with Anna? What kind of things did you guys talk about?
It was really, I think initially it was quite hard for me to kind of be open and to be honest about how I was feeling, because I was kind of embarrassed about, you know, being in that kind of situation. I'd never been in that kind of situation before. I'd never felt like I'd needed to ask for help. But I think that how I felt was so horrible that I don't think in my mind I can't be any worse than how I feel right now. Okay, so I've just got to get it all out there because I need help. So yeah, it was a lot about. I mean, I wasn't really leaving the house at the time. I kind of felt like I got so used to being inside. My anxiety was through the roof about leaving the house. And Coach Hannah was like, right, you need to get out of the house. You really do need to get out of the house. Get out of the house. I had a high step count to achieve each day. And I really didn't realise the benefits of just that one small thing, how much better I would feel just by doing that. And then having a plan, you know, to help me guide me through those first few weeks was like it was something different for me to focus on rather than what was going on in my head. And that helped a lot.
Yeah, the structure and the routine, and then obviously all the actions that you're taking, getting outside, you're getting sunlight, you're getting fresh air. It's great for your natural dopamine levels.
Yeah, and it sounds really simple, like go outside for a walk. But when you're in that kind of headspace, you don't think about those things.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't know as well. Sometimes it's like, well, why do I feel this way? You know, someone's like, go for a walk. It's like, going for a walk isn't going to solve my problems.
Yeah, exactly.
But, you know, it's very rare you go for a walk and come back and feel worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, most times when you go for a walk, you come back, you're like, you feel better for it regardless.
But if you haven't got someone telling you, like Anna, it's easy to say, oh, go later, or go tomorrow.
Exactly.
Or it's dark, or it's wet. And
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, and like my husband would try and say, look, you know, why don't we do this? No, I don't want to do that. Why don't we do... No.
Oh, yeah.
I think sometimes you do need someone that you don't know to tell you these things, because I think you will take it better from someone else than the people that are closest to you.
100%. The amount of times Reece tells me to go and do some yoga, I'm like, I don't want to do yoga.
Don't stop telling me what to do.
He's like, this is exactly the reason why you need to do the yoga.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, if it was Anna telling me, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you have quite an interesting journey with Body Smart, because you worked with Anna, you felt like, okay, I've got my routine back, I've lost the weight that I wanted to lose, got in a better place with like your self-image, and then you went out into the world and went, I've got this, and then life came along with another curveball.
Yeah.
So what happened next?
So I was doing really well, I graduated, everything was great, life was brilliant, and then we had a loss in the family, and it was a really, really tough time. I lost my dad about 8 years ago, and it just kind of, you know, brought back all those old memories, all those old feelings of the loss, and, you know, it was a close family member, and going through all that again, kind of turned my world upside down again, really. And I found it really hard to deal with.
Yeah.
And then you kind of get back into that, your routine goes out of the window. You kind of want to be there for everybody else, be everyone else's shoulder to lean on, and I kind of felt myself losing my routine again. And then after a while, I kind of...
Sorry, with that, you know, the way you said you felt like you were losing your routine, was that because you put other people first, or like what was the main reason for losing that?
Yeah, I mean, you put other people first. You kind of, you know, the things that you have to deal with in times like those. You're kind of there's stuff you have to do, right? You have to be there for other people. You're, you know, looking after other people while, you know, while my husband could go off and do what he needed to do. And so I would be the support for him, not just for him, but for the kids as well, and all of that jazz. So you kind of put everyone else's needs before your own again.
Yeah.
Which is, as a mother, it's a natural thing to do. It's what you instinctively want to do. And then I felt myself kind of slipping, and kind of, you know, not in a very good. I felt myself slipping backwards again, and then I saw on Instagram the 28-day challenge, back to your best, and I thought, oh my gosh, I think this is fate. Like, if ever I needed something now to get me back on track, I think this is it. So I signed up for that, which I was kind of like, oh, I thought I'd really conquered this. I thought that, you know, I've done this, I've been here before, kind of thing. But actually, life will always throw stuff at you, and it's not always easy to navigate by yourself. So I was like, you know what? I think I need this bit of a boost, and I think it's going to serve me. And and I'm so glad that I did do that.
Yeah, yeah. And you were working with Coach Luke on the challenge.
Yes.
And what was one of the top tips you were saying before?
Oh yeah, it's little nuggets of wisdom.
Oh, little nuggets of wisdom, like one of the best. We were chatting, and he was saying, oh, you know, about, you know, habits to do and exercise and all this, and I'll be like, oh, yeah, well, I couldn't do it like that because I had to do this or whatever. And he's like, well, is that a reason or is it an excuse? And I was like, oh my gosh, he's got my number.
Yeah.
So you know, I think I found myself making excuses not to do things rather than it being an actual reason, because you can always do something.
Yeah.
You know?
It's hard to cut the BS with yourself, isn't it?
It really is, because you believe the stuff you tell yourself.
Yeah,
right.
And especially if you're in that cycle.
Yeah, and to you it is a valid reason. But until someone calls you out on it, and then when that happens, you kind of go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right then.
Yeah.
You know, and then you can start to then be a little bit more honest with yourself.
Yeah.
About what you deem to be a reason.
And you mentioned earlier that you have a bit of a self-destruct tendency.
I do.
Is a lot of it that just inner talk, just talking you down from things? Or?
Yeah, because I don't know, you know, when tough things come up in life for you to deal with and everything else, I do have a little button that I go, you know what, sod it. I'm not going to do any of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think there's so many people listening who have the same button.
Oh my gosh. And it's very big and it's very red and it's like, going through the process of like being with Body Smart and everything else, it's like, well, okay, well, things might come along in life that you can't always do the things that, you know, that you set out for yourself. But as long as you do something and it doesn't turn into nothing, then you're still doing something.
Yeah.
So, and that for me is made a really, really big difference. Okay, if I can't do my 45 minutes in the morning, I haven't got the time. Well, okay, well, can I do 20 minutes? You can always do something.
Yeah.
And I always have that in the back of my mind because it's something that's really helped me.
But as a kind of recovering all or nothing personality, how hard was it to make peace with that?
Initially, really hard. Because in the past, you know, everyone you find something that you really enjoy doing and you're doing it, and then something will come along to stop you from doing it. And then I'm like, well, if I can't do that, I'm not going to do anything then. That's the thing I like to do. And I was very closed-minded like that. Like, I'm all in or I'm all out. And getting past that and learning to be okay with, okay, well, I might be able to do that, but I can do this. It was a real turning point, and it took quite a while for me to get my head around that. Because when that's been your default setting for such a long time, it's like learning a different way to think about it.
And it serves you, doesn't it, in lots of other areas of life, committing to something like 100% and being all in.
Yeah.
You know, it serves you, and that's like the standard that you set for yourself.
Yeah.
But then with your health, it's just got a kind of a way of going, well, life ain't perfect. So, you know, you can try and make it perfect, and you can do that for a short period of time, like a challenge maybe. You could be like, I'm going to be perfect for the challenge. But you can't be perfect with your health for life, because life just got a way of...
Absolutely. Something will always come along and put a spanner in the works, and I've learnt that. It's a much better place to be. And also understanding that, you know, there's always going to be things that you can control, and then there are things that are totally out of your control, and it doesn't matter what you do with all the best wishes in the world, you're not going to be able to change those things. So, and that was something else that I learned that was a really valuable lesson for me.
Did you know we have an award-winning one-on-one coaching program designed especially for women aged over 30 who want to lose between 15 and 60 pounds? Just like this podcast, our Body Smart method cuts through all the BS out there and brings together the latest weight loss science to fast-track your weight loss. So if you want to lose 15 to 60 pounds in the next 6 months, guaranteed, or you don't pay, apply at bodysmartfitness.com.
Worry about the things that you
Control
that
the
you can
controllables.
control.
Yeah.
The things that you do have a power over, your choices and everything else. Don't worry about the things that you can't control.
Yeah.
And that's been a really good thing for me to learn too.
I think that's something that people probably have seen. Like, there's infographics on like people's Instagram pages or stuff that say that, like, your circle of control. But it sounds like a conceptual thing.
Yeah.
So how did you take that from being like, I know, worry about work and control, to actually doing just that?
I don't really know. I think that obviously going through the like being with Body Smart and everything, and the round tables and everything else, and I think it was a round table that kind of went through this, like, worry about the things that you can control and all the rest of it. And it was a real like aha moment for me. I was like, yeah, and it seems such a simple thing to say, but actually when you compute that and you kind of go, oh yeah, well, that makes sense. Like, why am I trying to have an influence on something that I have no control over? And it just kind of, it feels like a bit of a weight's been lifted once you kind of get your head around that.
Yeah.
And then you're taking away things rather than adding to your plate, and it just makes things a little bit more simpler, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think for me it was an aha moment, and I thought, oh, okay, well, let's give that a go, and actually, yeah, it works.
Funny thing.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of those things, though. I feel like you have to be in the right place at the right time for your brain to, like, take it on board.
I think you do.
And in part of like a journey that you've been through, if you tried to do that too early, it probably wouldn't have been effective.
No.
So it's almost like you have to just be in that receptive space where you're working through stuff.
You do.
And then you hear something, you're like, okay.
Yeah. I think that I was in such a terrible place to start with, and all I knew is I didn't want to go back there. So anything that I could learn to help me to move past that and get out of the horrible space that I was in, I was all over it. I was like, okay, fine, I'll try anything now, because I don't want to go back there.
So it sounds like the mindset side of coaching was huge for you.
Yeah.
Is that something that you knew was going to be the case when you signed up, or?
Absolutely not. I mean, I really don't know what I expected. I really didn't know, but all I knew was that I needed help. And I think at that point I didn't really care what it looked like. I just knew that I wanted to get out of the hole that I was in.
When you ever heard people talk about, like, mindset stuff in the past, like, what was your...
Oh, I'm like, oh God, it's
like
a load of, like...
woo-woo bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, we get it. Like I can be very much like that, can't I, over certain things.
Yeah.
And, but, like, if we try to make everything that we do, it's like, this is practical and logical, but it's just, it's under the sort of category of mindset. But it's like, when you hear it, you're like, oh, yeah, that does happen in my life, and that could be more applicable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think for me, before, when there hadn't been anything wrong, I was like, well, everything's fine. I don't need to worry about anything like that. Just get on with it, just deal with it, whatever. But finding myself in a place where I was like, I feel like I'm drowning and I don't know where to go or what to do with that. I think for me that was kind of the turning point to being more susceptible to being open to new things.
Although you did say you didn't love doing the mindset stuff, like when your coach would send you.
Because it really makes you look inside and makes you kind of have to be a bit honest with yourself about, the way that you are. So I didn't enjoy the mindset exercises really. I always found them a real struggle to do. But that actually does really help.
Yeah. And I think the reason, like you said, is because it's a place that you intentionally don't go in your head.
Absolutely.
And so when someone forces you to go there, there's so much resistance, isn't there?
Yeah.
But after having done those exercises now, what would you say to somebody who was a bit like you were before? Like, oh, it's a bit of bullshit.
Oh, just bite the bullet and do it, because you will feel better about it afterwards.
Yeah.
Even if you really don't want to do it. I mean, there were times when I had these forms to fill in and I knew they were on my phone, and I would literally pick it up, look at the first question and go, oh, it's too hard. And put it down. And then I'd walk away from it, and then I'd come back to it. And it would be like that for a good, for about a week.
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
keep going on. I'd maybe get through one question and feel really good about doing that, and then realise there's another 8. And I really don't want to do it, But even though I put up that much resistance to doing it, I did eventually do it. And then I felt really good about myself for actually completing it and doing it. I was like, oh my God, look at me, look what I did.
Yeah.
So, you are achieving stuff even though you really desperately don't want to do it.
And actually, do you know what? You probably got way more out of it because you were like mulling it over for a week.
Yeah.
And your brain was actually thinking about the answers rather than just, oh, I'll just put this down.
Just put anything down. Yeah, exactly. Which, that was, I just put, but you can't, you're not going to get anywhere if you do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's definitely not easy, but you get there in the end.
Yeah. And you said that wasn't really what you thought or you knew you were getting yourself into.
No, it really wasn't. No, I really didn't know that.
So was it more of like the fitness and the nutrition support that you thought you wanted?
Yeah, definitely, because I really wasn't happy with how I looked or any of that, and I just needed a way forward. What I thought I needed was just someone to go, here you go, do this, because I was so stuck.
Yeah.
So I think that's
And is that what you got?
And loads more.
Okay. Because sometimes it depends. Everybody's journey is different, and the coach will kind of decide what will probably help you the most. But sometimes we'll be like, I'm not going to tell you what to do because you need to figure it out yourself.
Yeah, I think initially having structure of, okay, right, these are the 5 things you're going to do every day, and drink water, do your steps, do this, and they were small achievable things that weren't too overwhelming to begin with, because I think a lot of the time when you think about embarking on something like this, you think, I don't know if I can do it. It's too many things.
Intense workouts. It's really strict diets. Yeah,
exactly. But it's not like that with Body Smart. They go, right, okay, we're going to start off with this, and you go, really? Is that it?
Yeah.
Well, is that all I need to do? I'm like, well, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right then. But it's your pathway. It's your way in, and it makes you feel good ticking off those little things.
Yeah.
But all those little things add up to the bigger things, and it just builds and builds and builds, and before you know it, you're on a roll, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm feeling pretty good about this now. So it stops being scary, and it starts becoming something that you look forward to doing.
Yeah. Which is, I think that's the key, isn't it? If you kind of think like, oh, I've got to do these super intense workouts and follow this really strict diet, it's kind of the friction to even start is like, this is horrible. And then you actually look at the plan and go, oh, I can do a little bit more steps. I can drink more water. I can, eat a bit more protein and maybe start doing like a couple of workouts. And you're like, okay, so you start there, and it's just like the building blocks. And then all of a sudden you might be at the intense workouts or the next stage of what that is. But because you built up to it, it doesn't feel like it's a big leap to get there. No,
you haven't got to totally overhaul, totally change everything that you do from day one.
Yeah.
It's all achievable, and you can do it.
Yeah.
You're not frightened of, you don't sort of have this big old list of stuff and going, oh my God, when am I going to ever do this? It's not like that. There are achievable things that you can do.
Is that what kind of approach you would have tried previously, though, to be like...
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. I mean, I've tried lots of different things before. Juice diets, really restrictive ones, which you can do for a little while, but it's not something that you can carry on forever.
Yeah.
Because I've been there before. You do it for 6 weeks, and you go, oh yeah, I cracked it. This is great.
Did it for 6 weeks?
Yeah, did it for 6 weeks. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done now. Walk away.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. So.
How did you feel though, like when you were doing that for the 6 weeks?
Like you feel, you kind of, it's horrible because you've got this list of things, okay, do this, blah, 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 and you have to stick to it. It's so rigid. There's no colouring outside the lines. So you feel like, you're being very restricted on what you can do, and you feel like you're missing out on everything.
Mm-hmm.
But also when you've done it for a period of time, you think, oh yeah, I've done it.
Yeah.
But no.
Tick box, move on.
Yeah, move
Yeah.
on, and then everything returns to normal. And then,
Yeah.
where are you?
Yeah.
You're back where you were before.
Yeah.
So yeah, those things don't work.
Yeah.
So do you feel it kind of flipped on its head a little bit of what you need to do to be healthy and fit?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, initially when I joined Body Smart, learning about macros and all that kind of stuff and using my fitness pal was a whole new thing to me. I was like, wow, oh my God, what is this? Got to learn to do something technology. But actually, once you start to get used to it, it's like, oh my gosh, this is really good.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier to deal with than I think you initially think. I think
It can feel quite daunting, particularly if you haven't done it before.
Yes.
Like tracking everything you eat and like learning all of this stuff sounds like a very big task.
Yeah.
Was that off-putting for you?
Initially, I was like, oh gosh, how am I going to deal with this? Because I'm not really good with technology ever, and I don't really use stuff like that. But actually, it doesn't take very long before I was looking forward to putting it all in and going, oh, look what I've done. I can do that. And actually using it as a tool to plan was kind of game changing. Instead of going, oh my God, I've eaten this, I've got to better put that in. Using it as a plan just made everything feel a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in control then, aren't you?
You're in control rather than it being in control of you.
Yeah.
You are in control of what happens.
So I think that's where people say, oh, I hate tracking my food. I think it's because they track what they've eaten rather than they plan what they're going to eat.
Exactly.
And actually, when you use it as a planning tool, you go into the day and you feel like, right, I know how to hit my goals. I'm going to feel energized. I'm not going to be hungry. Whereas if you do it with tracking, all it is like this little guilt reminder.
Exactly.
And then you're like, oh God, I've really messed up and now it's too late. And
Yeah.
it's just telling you again and again how much you've messed up, isn't it?
Definitely. But I also think like knowing or like pre-planning
Yeah.
takes all that, takes all that stress away from the day, because rather than you going, oh, right, okay, well, what am I going to... You've already done it. You've already put it in. So you can just carry on with your day. And it's one less thing for you to think about. It's one less thing for you to get stressed about. And you just do it.
Yeah.
It's already there.
And so would you pre-prep your food? Are you a meal prepper or are you just a planner?
Sometimes if I've got a busy week, then
Yeah.
I'll definitely go, right, okay, I'll roast chicken on the Sunday. So I know I've got that in there. I'll chop up a load of like veggies or whatever and chuck them in bags. So I know I've got snacks to go to, so I don't look for something else or whatever. But also it doesn't suit everybody, but I have the same breakfast every single day. Because I love it. And B, because I know.
What do you have? I have the same breakfast every day.
I have Greek yogurt with
Yeah.
berries, and I have fibre, like my all brand, and it's the same breakfast every single morning. Because what I've learned is that I never used to eat breakfast at all, and I'd never really eat until I got hungry, which was usually about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And by that point, I was so blimmin' starving. I used to grab anything, so I'd eat rubbish.
Yeah.
But when I first started doing this, actually I had to force myself to have breakfast because I was never hungry in the morning because I got so used to not having it. But actually what happened was I have a really good breakfast, really balanced breakfast. I'm not hungry until lunchtime, keeps me full and sets me up for the day. And it kind of just changed the whole way that I thought about my day in food.
Yeah.
So when you were not having breakfast before, was that a bit of a leftover from thinking, oh, if I skip breakfast and I'll save calories, or?
I don't know. I just think maybe. I don't know if I consciously thought that, but I think I just got myself into that routine of getting up, doing the stuff, like coffee is fuel, live on coffee.
Yeah.
Wouldn't really think about it until I got hungry. And then by then it was too late to make a good choice because I'd already gone past that point.
Yeah. And your body has a circadian rhythm, so people forget this. Like if you've not eaten breakfast for a while, your body will get used to not eating breakfast, and that's like your body clock for your appetite, but you can just start eating breakfast, and it can be just a smaller portion to begin with, and then it's only about 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, and then your circadian rhythm for when you'll feel hungry again in the morning will change. But yeah, I think if you don't break your meals out, it can be very hard to get enough protein, enough fibre, and eat enough nutritious food throughout the day.
Because I just found that I was eating rubbish food, but just pushed it all back to later in the day. So, you know, about 2 o'clock, maybe 2 o'clock would be my first meal, 2 or 3 o'clock, and it would be rubbish because I'd be so hungry. I'd grab whatever the first thing was. But then I still wanted something to eat at like 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
You know, 9 o'clock at night, because I hadn't really sort of...
We hadn't given your body what it actually needed, had you?
Exactly, for the first bit of the day.
Yeah. And so looking at what your average meals would look like now comparatively, do you go for like 3 meals and a snack, or like a couple of different things?
No, I always have my breakfast, lunch. I always know what I'm going to have for dinner, even if it's not sort of written down or whatever. I know, right, okay, I plan it. And then I might have a snack in the afternoon, or if I fancy some chocolate, I'll save that for the evening, and that's when I'll do that. So, but I don't. My snacks are usually either in the afternoon, you know, mid-afternoon, or sort of if I fancy something during the evening. But
what have been some of the biggest like nutritional changes that you've had to make then? Obviously, I think, you know, the tracking and awareness of food, that's huge, isn't it? I think when I first started tracking food, it was like, oh my God, everything's got numbers and calories and protein and carbs and fat, and you just start looking at food a completely different way. And then over time, once you just develop that skill, it doesn't feel as overwhelming at all. But like, what were some of the biggest nutritional changes for you previously to now?
What do you mean in terms of what I ate?
Maybe like what you ate or your awareness around food.
So one thing that was a real eye-opener for me were portion sizes of things. You know, when you're looking at the back of what you're having and you're going, like, when I have my fibre, I'm looking at the back. Well, okay, a portion is 40 grams. Okay, I think I know what that looks like. But actually what I thought it looked like and what it actually is are two really different things. And then I started thinking, oh my gosh, you look at the back of other cereal packets when you go shopping. You think, oh my gosh, my kids used to have that for breakfast, and they'd have a bowl full of it. And then you look at the nutritional values of all that stuff, and you're like, oh no. You know, like, and it's things like, even things like nuts and stuff, where you say nuts are really healthy, they're good for you. Yeah, brilliant. What's the portions? What do they class as a portion size? And I'd never looked at that before. But being more aware about what does that actually look like, rather than having the whole packet and just, you know, mindlessly having it. Because before you know it, you've eaten half of a pack of a big bag of it. You know, and a portion is 25 grams.
Yeah, which is like 4 Brazil nuts.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was a real eye-opener for me, like, you know, what actually portion sizes are.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't ever say that I've been a massive eater or, you know, big portion sizes. I haven't, like, in meal-wise. But, I was quite a big snacker, I think, like a picker.
Yeah.
You know, so, but also realising that having your protein and your fibre are the things that are going to keep you full, so that then you don't need to have all the rubbish in between. Yeah. So that was really kind of like, oh, well, actually, I don't need anything to eat because I'm not hungry. Yeah. My body's got what it needs, and I can go through till lunch or go through till dinner now.
I think that's a really important thing to talk about.
Are you ready to lose 30 to 60 pounds in under 6 months without restrictive diets, countless hours exercising, or any guesswork? Well, we help women over 30 do exactly that. Lose weight guaranteed. And 5 to 10 pounds a month is the average weight loss. And that's not a cherry pick statistic, that is the average. Your weight loss results are 100% guaranteed, and you will lose unwanted body fat. So apply now at bodysmartfitness.com. But only if you're a woman over 30 and you want to lose 30 to 60 pounds in under 6 months.
You aren't the tallest person in the world. How tall are you?
About 5'2.5", maybe.
Half
counts.
The half does count.
5'3".
Yeah. Steph says that to me all the time. She's like 5'3.5" or 5'4.5", and I'm like, the half counts every single time.
Every time.
So obviously, when we give somebody their personalised nutrition, it is based on your weight, your height, your activity level, and your calories that you got given were around 1,200, weren't they? Which, if someone's listening, they might be thinking, that's so low. You guys are always saying don't eat 1,200 calories.
Yeah.
But it's all dependent on the person and the body frame that you're in. How did you find that?
I actually, like, when I was first doing it, I mean, I didn't really know anything about macros or like counting. I'd never done it like that before. I'd usually just followed a plan or whatever it was,
Yeah.
like juice diet or whatever, hideous. But so the whole thing was new to me. But actually, when I was planning, like, I've got to do because you break it down into how many calories per meal or whatever. If you choose the right stuff, it's quite amazing how much you can actually eat.
Yeah.
And
Which is what, like, I think people go, what do you mean how much you can eat on 1200
Yeah,
calories?
because we say that and people are like, yeah, sure.
yeah. But you can have 3 meals and a snack, and still have coffee or whatever else. You know, I didn't. I don't think I really felt hungry. Really, like unnecessary. You know, like only if I was bored or whatever like that. But not properly physically hungry through just having that calorie count.
And do you think that's because, like you said, you were choosing specific foods, though?
Definitely, because obviously, going through this process opened my eyes to, feeding yourself what your body needs and having, the right stuff, the protein, the fibre, and all the rest of it. And when you fill up your plate with the good stuff that your body needs, it's surprising what that plate will look like.
Yeah, and you said it kind of tied you over till the next meal, which before being a snacker.
Yeah.
Did you find that helpful, or did you find that like, oh, I'm missing out on my little afternoon treat?
Well, no, I didn't. I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything because actually I didn't feel like I needed more than I was having. I mean, certain times of the month, being ladies, you do crave certain things more than others. But as long as you plan for that, it's not like, okay, you can't have that.
Yeah.
You can't have. If you fancy a bar of chocolate, you can have a bar of chocolate. If you fancy a bit of cake, have a bit of cake. But plan it into your day so then you don't feel like you're missing out on anything.
Yeah. Is that how you looked at nutrition in the past? Because sometimes chocolate, cake will be viewed as these are off limit foods.
Oh
on the
yeah,
diet.
absolutely. I was definitely one of those cut everything out. The biscuits, the crisps, whatever. Totally restrictive. And literally living on lettuce and, no carbs. So I definitely don't eat the carbs.
Yeah.
So I've done very restrictive things like that before, which of course work, but it's not sustainable and it's not real. It's not real. It's not real life.
Yeah.
You can't carry on like that. You can do it for a small amount of time, but you can't do it forever.
Because it's still strange, isn't it, for a lot of people to still hear oh, what do you mean you've hit your goals and you've been eating chocolate and factor saying, oh, I factor in chocolate, I factor in cake, I factor in a glass of wine. It's
definitely.
but then that allows you to be oh well, if I can keep doing this. It doesn't feel too restrictive to not be able to stop.
No, exactly. And then if you want to go out for dinner or whatever, and that was a real big thing for me because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to go out for dinner because I've got quite we're quite social and so we're always off doing something. And I think, oh my gosh, how am I going to go to a restaurant? I'm like, I don't want to go. But then learning that you can just look at the menu in advance and have a look and see what you want and then log it or you can bank calories throughout the week. That was a massive eye-opener for me. It's wow, okay, I can still reach my goals and go out on a Saturday night and maybe have a meal out and whatever else and not sabotage what I'm doing.
Yeah. Because previous, would that have been a bit of a tipping switch into the self-sabotage?
Well, yeah, it'd be I would go out for the night and then just have whatever and then go, oh, I've got to start again. So then the rest of the weekend would go out of the window. And then I'll be good on Monday. I'll start again on Monday, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, you can have your cake and eat it, which is very rare in situations. You can have your cake and you can get the best of both worlds. The caveat and the but to it is that you do have to plan. You do have to plan and be prepared, but you are hitting your goals and able to still enjoy your food and your lifestyle, but you just have to plan and be prepared. So that's very much that's it, isn't it?
Definitely. And now I love if we're going out for dinner, I'm like, oh, I've got to look at the menu.
Yeah, I like
something
it
that
as well.
I do all the time. I'm like, oh, and people say to me, well, why don't you just it takes half the fun out of it. Choose when you get there. But actually, I like doing that now. I want to know what I'm going to have. Because also I can be quite indecisive. So knowing what I want before I go just makes the whole thing go a whole lot easier. It's that decision fatigue, isn't it? You're like, oh my gosh. Because if I don't decide what I'm going to have before I go, then I might get swayed by something else, which is fine. But I like to sort of know where I am, and I like to know what's coming.
I think that's the crux of it, because I think certain personalities, and I definitely fall in this camp, actually having a plan, knowing what's coming up for me takes a lot of anxiety away. If I'm just like muddling through life, I find that really stressful.
Yeah.
And so if you've got a plan, whether it's going out for dinner or planning your week or whatever it might be, it just feels to me like everything's a bit more in control.
Definitely.
And it sounds like extra work, but it's not.
No, I don't think it is extra work. I just think it makes, like you say, it just makes things go an awful lot better.
Yeah.
To take those decisions out, because, you know, like I work better like that, knowing what's coming. So I know what's happening.
Yeah, I hate a surprise. And so you were on 1,200 calories in your fat loss phase.
Yeah.
What does your maintenance look like now? Because I think people don't often talk about that's just a short period of time.
Yeah. So my maintenance now, I think my maintenance is like 1750.
Yeah.
And when I first got given that, I was like, oh, how am I going to eat that much? Like, I don't understand how I'm going to eat that much. Because I was quite happy. You get used to it, you know. And when you realise the things that you can eat on a calorie deficit, you get used to that. So I was a little bit worried about how I was going to eat that many calories. But yeah, you know, you can eat loads.
You managed it.
I managed.
Yeah.
And actually, was it more of a mental block, do you think, of eating more? Because you knew, like, 1,200 has worked for me.
Yeah.
Rather than, like, physically, I can't fit that in me.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of both, really, for me. Because, like, you do get a bit scared, like, well, I don't want to put the weight back on.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to go backwards. I've worked really hard to get here. I don't want to, you know, end up going back to where I was. But I think the beauty of this for me was like doing a reverse diet. I'd never heard of that before, that term, like a reverse diet. I didn't even know what that was. It kind of all made sense. And then when you actually go through it, when you actually do it, you're like, wow, didn't expect that to work, but here we are. Trust the process. Like, just keep going.
Yeah.
And yeah, it opened my eyes a lot, actually.
Yeah. And it obviously has worked, because one of the things that we like to say to our clients is, like, we want you to be in a calorie deficit for a short amount of time as possible. Because when you're back to maintenance, you're like really fueling your body. You can get stronger, you can build more muscle. And I have to say, I've been admiring your arms across the table. And you are super strong, super fit. I think if most people have a look at your before and after pictures, we haven't even said how old you are, but they wouldn't be able to guess. Because like somebody who's 23 would want to look like you in a swimsuit.
Oh, thank you.
But it's obviously paid off in the gym, as you can tell. So what does your training look like, and how do you feel like your nutrition helps that?
I don't know. I think because I really enjoy my training now, I know I'm fueling my body in the right way, rather than feeling tired or, you know, not being able to achieve what I want to achieve. You know, I'm really excited. Like, I'm really happy with what I've achieved so far. And I'm really excited for what the next 12 months is going to bring. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing what else I can do in the gym, and, you know, how heavy I can lift, and setting myself challenges to work harder in the gym. So I just feel like I'm doing all the right things to be able to give my body the best opportunity to be able to achieve the things that I want to do.
So what, if we think back to like 2019, 2018, pre-lockdown, was that the kind of workouts that you would have been doing before?
No.
What were you doing then?
Not much. Walking the dog, housework. Like, yeah, I didn't really have much of a
and now you're like, bring on the gym challenge.
I want to be in the gym. I want to do it, you know, and I really enjoy doing it.
Love it.
I get a lot out of it, and you know, it's also my me time. You know, and I know I always feel better for doing it afterwards, even though sometimes I'm like, I really don't want to do it. I really don't want to go. But, you know, we always come out of there thinking, oh, yeah, great,
Feeling better.
I'm glad I did that. Yeah, so for me, it is like my me time too.
How have you got with, because I know we've spoke a lot about putting everybody else first, and that's, you know, tendency as mothers, and I would say even more as women, probably more than guys. Those situations probably still crop up, no doubt, where you want to put everyone else first.
Yeah.
How have you maybe changed that, where you're putting yourself first? Because it does, we speak to so many people and it feels selfish to do that, to put yourself first.
Yeah.
But it's in a lot of ways it's selfless, because then if Tracie's feeling 100%, then you're able to give to everybody
Absolutely.
else. But it's still, that's still very hard to fight in those moments.
It is, because you know, as a parent as well, it's your natural instinct to just drop everything and go, oh. But actually feeling the way that I do now, and knowing how, you know, how far I've come to achieve this state of mind and how I feel and everything else, I'm like, there are certain things that I'm like, no, I do this. It's my non-negotiable. I can do this, then I can do that. So, you know, everybody else still gets, they get, you know, the good part of me, because I feel better in myself, and I set those kind of boundaries around, no, whatever happens, I'm doing this, because it sets me up, and then everyone else gets the good me.
Yeah. Which is, it's a hard concept, isn't it? To get sometimes, like, you've got to pour into your cup so you can pour the best version of you into everyone else's cup.
And I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
It
I
took
think
me a while.
it's another one of those things that you hear banded around, but it doesn't feel like it applies to you.
No, because like I felt there were times, especially when I first started, that I was being selfish for doing these, you know, getting my workouts in, getting my steps in, and I did become very single-minded about it, because like no, I need to do this. You feel a bit guilty to start off with, but actually no, I need to do this for me. This is what I need.
Yeah.
This is my fuel. This is what I need to be the best version of me. And then if I'm feeling in a good place, then everyone else gets the good version of me. So for me, that's part of my self-care now. It's not really, I don't feel like I'm being selfish for taking the time to do that.
Yeah. I think what's really interesting as well is 90% of the partners, kids, mums, whoever that you asked, if you said, do you think Tracie's being selfish by having a workout time twice a week? They would be like, no,
Yeah.
what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But we create this in our heads.
You do.
And it's not even like, it's a big ask for our families for us to do that. But we just think, oh no, I couldn't possibly.
I know. She's like, well, the ironing's got to be done, and this has got to get done, and la, 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 and I shouldn't really be doing this, but it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. And what about just generally the inner work that you've been doing as well? How has that kind of affected, or how have your family noticed changes in you?
I'm definitely a lot more placid around the house, I think.
You're not the first graduate to have said this. Remember when Julie was like...
Yeah, she was like, I'm just there. Everyone at work says I'm just a nicer person. You're just like, no shit.
I think my family would describe me pre-body smart as quite tightly wound. I found it hard to relax and sort of, you know, chill out, and always like, no, I can't sit down, I've got to do this and I've got to do that, and and always getting really aggy about the stuff that hadn't been done and all the rest of it. And I think everyone is like, you know, I am a lot more chill. Like things that used to really, really make me twitch and whatever, you know, I'm like,
There's a really good saying, which is exhaust the body and you tame the mind. And it's very much just like, I can be like that, especially if you've got a lot of stress going on. I feel like my mind races even more.
Definitely.
But if I'm exercising and exhausting my body, it quietens the mind.
It really does.
Makes you a little bit more, makes me at least a little bit more stoic.
But also having the structure of my day, or having my things that I do, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
As well on top of that, because I'm like, I've got my structure in my day, I've got my things to do, and I feel good for doing it.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm much more about everything.
So they're fully on board with you having your you time.
Definitely. Definitely. And in fact, when I do start getting grouchy, they're like, do you want to go for a walk or something? Why don't you go do a workout? I said, I'm like, maybe I'll do that.
Yeah.
And then I come down and go, that was really good.
Yeah.
I feel better now. Oh, excellent. Well done.
So do you work out at home then mostly?
Yeah.
Yes.
And how have you found that? Because I think a lot of people with the idea of strength training, they think, I've got to go to the gym.
No, I love it. I've got my own little setup. I've got it's not anything. I've got loads of equipment and stuff. I've got my adjustable weights and different bits and pieces, but it's amazing what you can do.
Yeah.
And also, what I like is you don't have to wait for anyone else to finish on what you want to do. It's just you.
Yeah.
So I really like it in that respect. I know it doesn't work for everybody, but I really like I can go in there and I can get on with it, I can smash it out, I'm done.
Yeah.
It's a big time save as well, isn't it?
Huge.
You know, like I look sometimes if I'm going to the gym, I'm like, it's like 2 hours the time I drive there, you know, do the workout, drive back, get a shower. It's like,
Yeah.
it's you know, so it does save
It's
a
a
lot
big
of time.
chunk, yeah.
But yeah, like
Yeah.
a bench and a set of adjustable dumbbells, you can do a hell of a lot at
Loads.
home. Yeah.
Absolutely. I've got a TRX that I put in the doorway, and
fantastic.
I literally I can come go out of the bedroom, look across there, and there it is, and I just get ready, go out, and I'm in there.
Yeah.
So you know,
It does take a lot of those reason excuses out, doesn't it?
It does.
Because you're not like, oh, well, the traffic will take me ages. Oh, well, I've missed that time slot.
yeah.
There's no reason
There's
not
no,
to.
there's no excuse. There's no reason
right
for me
there.
not to go in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just takes a lot of that away, which makes it easier for me.
Yeah.
And then you know, little things like I'll get my gym gear out the night before.
Yeah.
I'll just lay it out, so I automatically get up, you know, do what I need to do, put it on, and I do it.
So
And
you're
then
more
it's
of a
done.
morning workout.
Oh yeah, definitely, because I found if I start sort of floating around, then I start doing other things. I go, oh, I just need to sort out that washing, or oh, I just need to do this. I'll
Yeah.
just empty the dishwasher, or maybe I'll have one more coffee,
Yeah.
and then kind of the day starts, you know.
I don't mind, like I do it. Your
Yeah, me
mind's
too.
it's just so, it just can convince you so
Oh,
much, can't it?
yes,
Like everything
yeah.
else has got to be more important.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Yeah.
I do think making those decisions the day before, like, right, I'm going to work out in the morning, I'm going to lay my gym kit out, and that's what I'm going to do. And then you kind of get up, and because you've already made all those decisions, you just go into like autopilot.
Yeah.
And by the time you've woken up, you finished your workout.
Exactly.
And it's and like that's it. You feel like you've done this like big chunk, this big task for the day, and it makes you feel so much better too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
starts you off on a good foot, doesn't it?
Definitely. And then the rest of the day is whatever else the rest of the day needs to be.
Yeah.
You know that you've done what it is you said you were going to do. So yeah, it definitely works better for me.
And what would you say is your main reason for working out now?
Well, I now have 2 grandkids, so I need to keep up with them. They're only little at the moment, but one's just started walking, and I've really forgotten how much energy you need.
Yeah.
So that's a real big reason. And you know, I haven't always found things easy for working out and stuff. I've had some back issues. So I kind of feel like I need to make sure that I am the strongest that I can physically be to keep myself in good working order so that I can continue to do what I want to do and for longevity, really.
Yeah. We haven't talked about that actually, but you mentioned you had like pelvic issues
Yeah.
with your pregnancies.
Yeah.
And that was over 20 years ago and it still
Yeah.
plays up for you now.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that, again, as mums, we just like grin and bear it because it's so common, but it doesn't have to be.
No.
And it sounds like it's only just now that you're finding a program to actually get on top of that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it took an awful long time to sort of get where I am now and to get in front of the right person that could help me go forward. But you know, going from
What happened? Do you mind? Just go.
So I had pelvic issues with my last pregnancy, which meant I was on crutches from like when I was 4 months pregnant and just in constant pain. I couldn't even put one foot in front of the other. It was awful. And it took 18 months of seeing different doctors, going through different processes.
Is this after birth or just from that?
No, this was about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So my daughter was probably about 12 then. So it wasn't something that...
So what went on from when that happened at 4 months right up until...
So it kind of, once I'd had her
Yeah.
and the pregnancy was over, like things did feel easier. So you just kind of carry on because I had 2 other kids as well. And a new baby, you don't get an opportunity to go, maybe there's something I need to do. And nobody tells you about that. So you just kind of have to carry on. And it was only, about 10 years ago that I started to get a bit of a niggle sort of in my lower back, in my SI joint. And it just, in the space of a couple of months, went from just being a niggle from me literally not being able to get out of bed without being in tears and pain. And then it took 18 months to get in front of somebody that could figure out what it was. Everyone was like, no, don't. I had MRIs and all the rest of it, saw a spine specialist. He was like, well, there's nothing else that I can do for you. All I can see is, normal, what I would expect to see in someone of your age. All I can do is send you to see a pain specialist. And I was at a massive my wit's end with it at that point. And went to see this guy, which has meant steroid injections and denovations and stuff. And then fast forward to now, I'm in a much better place, and so I finally found somebody that I think is going to help me with sort of rehabilitating it. So it's kind of an ongoing thing.
And this is from, so how long ago was that pregnancy?
22 years ago.
Yeah. So, and you're only just getting the rehabilitation now.
Yeah.
So that's been something that's been like an ongoing in terms of, well, you've just gritted through, and then now it's become more of an issue, and 22 years later.
Yeah. So like, I've had sort of flare-ups on and off where it'll get particularly bad, and where, you know, I'm just in excruciating pain, and then you have to go on horrible painkillers and stuff for a few days before anybody can even look at it, because your muscles are spasming so terribly. You can't have anybody touch you. And then it will die down for a little bit, and then I'd get another injection, and then and I've been to see various different people, and it's just then it always seems to be, oh, you know, that'll keep you going for a little bit.
Yeah.
But then I'd always go back.
No, like actual fix.
No actual kind of something to work towards, or a program that would help me, you know, help get me stronger in those areas, which I think I've finally found now. So
Yeah. I think it's really important that we talk about it, because like you said, when you're in the midst of like new motherhood, it is kind of just like, oh, well, people have pelvic pain. Oh, well, people have pelvic floor issues.
Yeah.
Oh, you just have this. And it goes, I think the average is something like 7 years before people address those issues.
yeah, it's crazy.
But when you're in it, you're like, well, yeah, I understand, because there is no time to stop.
No,
and think
there's no
about
time, and there's
that.
no kind of advice. The doctors don't
No.
say, oh, well, you may want to look at some aftercare for your pelvis or whatever. Nobody ever says that to you.
So I think it's really important that we talk about it, because if somebody is listening and you are in that stage, don't wait 22 years.
No,
Well, yeah. Well, I mean,
or don't wait for it to get to the point where you can't walk.
No.
Or you could have women who are definitely in the 40s, 50s, and 60s who have just thought, oh, this level of pain is normal. Like this
It's too late.
Yeah, or it's too late, and it's like it's not. You know, we've seen people in the 70s and 80s going to rehab and get in a much better place and go, oh my God, I'm not in pain anymore.
Yeah.
And that pain's been going on for decades in some cases.
Yeah. And you were saying earlier, a lot of it is just really about strengthening your posterior chains, like your glutes, your back, your hamstrings, which everything you've been doing up to this point has already been like building a really strong foundation, which is amazing.
Definitely.
So how do you feel about like your prognosis now?
Yeah, I mean, I feel so much more confident that I am giving myself the best possible chance of negating any future sort of flare-ups or whatever. For me now, it's all about longevity and what can I do now to future-proof myself going forward and be as mobile as possible to keep up with the grandkids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said you're looking forward to like some challenges in your strength for this year.
Definitely.
Have you set some goals?
Sort of, I don't know. I'm like, I've got this thing about pull-ups.
Oh yeah.
So you know, I can do them, but I'm like, I want to get better. I want to be able to just, you know, do that. And I remember one of my first challenges was like, I want to get really good at press-ups, doing press-ups on my feet. And I can do those now, which was like, they used to be my nemesis.
Yeah.
So I like setting little like challenges. And then in the summer I did a plank challenge. So I did a 2-minute plank every day
Love it.
for charity, Great Ormond Street and stuff. So I do that. So I like doing, you know, when you see little challenges come up on like Instagram or whatever, and it'll be for a charity or whatever. I try and do those. But yeah, just you know, I think I want to get, you know, more sort of defined, if you like, sort of, you know, with my muscles and stuff. I'm sort of enjoying the aesthetics of it as well. And I know that's only one side of it, but you know, all my hard work's paying off. So any little challenges that I want to do going forward, I think I just constantly want to give myself and something different. You know, it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but you know,
it's a great mindset to be in, though, because I think sometimes when you're in the beginning, it's so focused on hating your body, losing weight, just like I just need to feel better, and then you know you can kind of fast forward and be like, hey, I'm getting pull-ups and push. You know, I'm looking for challenges and improving my strength, and it's a completely 180 in terms of the mindset now. It's like, oh, I value these parts of my health and fitness, and I'm enjoying the challenges, which you know you kind of wind the clock back, and it's that mindset doesn't even exist. It's just like, I can't keep feeling like this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's it's not a patch on where I was to begin with. I never thought in a million years that this, you know, everything would lead to where I am now, and I'm, you know, to be as confident as I am now and happy with how I am now, how I feel, how I look. I'm like, oh, I've worked hard. I'm getting happy. I'm happy with how I look and how I perform in the gym and all that jazz. So I don't want that feeling to go away.
No, it's addictive, isn't it?
It really is, yeah.
But to someone starting out, that can feel like a million miles away, or even just like, that's never actually going to be me.
Yeah.
Would you identify as that person in the beginning?
Absolutely. I mean, this where I am now couldn't be further from where I started.
Yeah.
It's like, felt like I had a mountain to climb to be anywhere close to what I am now.
So if somebody's listening that's in that space, what would your kind of words of wisdom be to them?
Words of wisdom, I'd say stop wasting time and just get on with it and just take the plunge and just take those first steps, because, staying where you are isn't going to help you in any way. You've got to start moving forward and just don't be scared and ask for that help. Go for it.
Yeah, and as we said earlier as well, those first steps, taking the step and reach out can be the hardest, but then when we gave you the initial plan, you're like, oh, is that it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like that's how it wants to feel as well, because it allows you to keep taking those small steps forward.
Because then you don't feel overwhelmed and you actually feel, well, actually, I can do this.
Yeah.
Rather than coming from a place of everything's impossible and I'm never going to be able to achieve that. You do start to feel that, oh, actually, I can do this.
Yeah.
And the self-belief that you have now sounds like a world away from where you started.
Absolutely.
So again, have you got any words of advice for someone who can't even envisage feeling that confident? Or
don't underestimate yourself.
That's a big one.
Don't underestimate what you're capable of achieving, because I did that for ages and would never put myself out of my comfort zone, or never say, oh, I'll give that a go, because I'm quite happy to stay in my little bubble, But yeah, don't underestimate yourself. You can do way more than you ever imagine.
And is that being a coach just giving you a little push? You can do a little bit more, is it?
Yeah, and I think the more that you do, and the more when you start to see your progress and you start to feel yourself changing and your mindset changing, and you start getting to a happier place, I just think you're like, wow, okay. You've given yourself that proof that you can. So then it kind of just builds from there.
Yeah, it gives you the evidence. So we were talking previously, like lockdown and how you were feeling, and obviously where you're at now. It sounds like you feel like you've got the blueprint for Tracie, and you've also got the resilience as well of like, I have been tested and I have gone. Is that how you feel? Do you feel like you've got that blueprint for yourself?
That's definitely how I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm so much more in control of my choices, of my outcomes. So it's definitely a much nicer place to be.
Yeah,
definitely.
And have you got your kind of, what do we call them, like your rules to live by that help you stay on that straight and narrow, that blueprint now?
I do. Some of them we mentioned earlier. It's like, do something, not nothing. That's always in the back of my mind when I'm not feeling it, when I'm really kind of maybe a bit tired, maybe didn't have a good night's sleep, or maybe not feeling great. As long as I do something and don't slip back into that, not doing anything. So that's a really good one. Do something, not nothing. And actually, even my husband and my daughter that live at home, they do the same now.
Oh.
So I'm kind of rubbing off on them in a really good
amazing.
way.
Yeah, I love
which
that.
is really great. Do something, not nothing.
Yeah.
So that's a really, really good one. That's one of
It's infectious though, isn't it? Because then when you see everyone else in the household taking that level of action, it kind of just rubs off on you, and they rub off on you, and it creates that environment of, for success.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. So yeah, it's really good to be able to pass on some of those nuggets to especially my younger daughter.
Yeah.
She's absolutely incredible. So yeah, they've given me an awful lot of support, and in fact, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them.
They've egged you on.
Oh yeah, they were like, "Don't be crazy, just go and do it.
Love it.
Great."
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really nice. It's really
Amazing.
nice. Yeah.
And then we have one question that we like to ask our guests, which is if you could cut the BS on anything to do with health, fitness, your journey, what would it be?
To cut the BS on any of it, it's way simpler than you imagine it to be. It doesn't have to be this complicated thing. But also, there's no magic to it. You're led to believe that there's, you've only, this is the way, or that's the way, and everyone thinks that there's got to be a secret. There's got to be a big secret to how it's done. And it's really not like that. So just don't get dissuaded from from taking the plunge, because you can do it.
Love it.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I just love having our graduates on, getting them into the studio, meeting them in real life, because it's just inspirational when you know, like, everything that we talk about, it does work, I promise. And our graduates are the walking, talking, breathing embodiment of that. And we've got so many of our lovely graduates to come down to the studio now. If you did enjoy hearing Tracie's story and the transformation that she's made, then maybe go and check out some of our other graduates. Maybe one to start with could be Laura. So that was episode 105. Laura came over all the way from the US to join us and share her story. And she is a really inspirational woman, self-proclaimed badass now, and I totally agree. So go and have a listen to episode 105 if you want to get inspired.